You're driving through downtown Philadelphia. Waiting at a red light. You glance down. Embedded in the asphalt, under years of tire marks, sealed into the road itself, is a tile. Hand-cut. Deliberate. A message, repeated word for word. Toynbee idea. In Kubrick's 2001. Resurrect, dead. On planet Jupiter. You've never seen anything like it. But somewhere out there, someone has seen hundreds of them and has spent their entire adult life trying to find out who put them there. Since the 1980s, these tiles have turned up embedded in the streets of roughly 24 U.S. cities and 4 capital cities in South America. They're linoleum, roughly license plate sized, and hundreds have been documented over the decades. Always in the middle of traffic. Always the same, or nearly the same, cryptic phrase. Nobody sees them get placed. They're just suddenly there one day, flush with the pavement, like they grew out of the road. That alone should tell you something. Getting a tile embedded and sealed into the middle of a busy street, without being seen, without being stopped, takes planning. Repeated planning. For decades. A Philadelphia artist named Duerr started keeping a notebook logging every sighting. By 1997, he was running some of the earliest web searches trying to find anyone else who'd noticed them. He found them. A small, scattered community. People who'd spotted the same tiles in different cities and couldn't explain why the message stayed so consistent. Duerr teamed up with 2 others, Colin Smith and Steve Weinig, and turned an obsession into a formal investigation. It would take them 6 years. Along the way, they'd find leads that seemed to solve it and watch every single one collapse. Earlier researchers had already turned up a name. James Morasco, a Philadelphia carpenter. In a 1983 newspaper interview, a man using that name laid out the actual theory behind the phrase, that everyone who had ever died could somehow be brought back to life and relocated to Jupiter. An idea, he said, came from reading the historian Arnold Toynbee. It fit. It explained the message. Case seemingly closed. Except nobody could ever locate a real James Morasco who matched the story. No consistent public record. No paper trail beyond that one interview. The name outlived the man who supposedly gave it, if he'd ever existed as described at all. Which meant the investigation had to start over, from a name that might have been fake from the beginning. A tile found as far away as Santiago, Chile, carried something the others didn't. A Philadelphia street address. It led back to a reclusive local man named Severino, Sevy, Verna. Verna wasn't just gluing tiles into pavement. According to the filmmaker's research, he'd started years earlier, broadcasting his theories over pirate shortwave radio, driving through Philadelphia at night, transmitting to anyone whose signal happened to catch his. He'd modified his own car, running a long antenna off it, cruising the streets while broadcasting, the range limited to whoever was close enough to pick him up. Those who'd known him described a man consumed by a fear of death since childhood, reportedly even attempting, as a kid, to preserve dead birds in cement, as though searching for a way to reverse what had already happened. Radio wasn't reaching enough people. So Sevy went looking for something permanent. Something that couldn't be turned off, tuned out, or scrolled past. A message embedded directly into the ground. People walk and drive over every day. The filmmaker's evidence suggests Verna cut a hole in the floor of his own car, allowing him to drop tiles directly onto the road while driving, then press them into the fresh asphalt before anyone noticed. That's not a random act. That's a repeatable process, refined over years, designed specifically to avoid ever being caught in the act. It explains everything that made this case so frustrating for 2 decades, why no one ever saw it happen, why the tiles were always simply there one morning, already embedded like they'd always belonged. Here's where the story stops being clean. The filmmakers concluded Verna was very likely the tiler behind most, if not all, of the phenomenon. But very likely isn't the same as confirmed. Verna himself never gave an on-camera confession laying out exactly how or why. One of the investigators described him simply as someone utterly sincere in what he believed, not a prankster, not an artist chasing attention, but a man who meant every word of that message. That sincerity is part of what makes the case land differently than most internet mysteries. There was no punchline, no reveal designed for an audience. Just one man, alone, for decades, trying to leave permanent proof of an idea he needed the world to consider, using the only medium he could control completely, the ground itself. Most of the tiles have since been paved over, worn away, or dug up entirely. The ones that remain are still occasionally spotted by drivers who have no idea what they're looking at. The man most likely behind them left this world the same way he entered the public record, unconfirmed, unclaimed, never fully accounted for on his own terms. Somewhere under new asphalt, in cities most people forgot to look, one man's entire belief system is still sealed into the ground. Nobody paved over the idea. They just paved over the evidence.